Every day, 1,000 young people are incarcerated in detention centres across Australia. Research shows it's not always the best answer. It's just creating a harder and bigger breed of criminal. New South Wales, Western Australia and the Northern Territory lock up the most.
I'm telling you, that's when offending increases when a young person is locked up. It's the beginning of a downward spiral.
I just don't get, sending people to jail. What are you doing, really? You're sending them there with a whole heap of other criminals, and what's going to happen? They're just going to learn how to be more of a criminal.
Correctional facilities aren't exactly good for correcting your mistakes. They're more likely just to reinforce the person's belief that the world is a cruel, horrible place and that they need to be just as cruel and horrible to survive in it.
In New South Wales, the get tough on crime politics has seen an explosion in the numbers of juveniles in custody. It locks them up at 4 times the rate of Victoria. So they're locked in their rooms for 18 hours a day?
Up to 18 hours a day.
And a lot of these children are not, they're innocent because they haven't been to court yet. They're on remand.
Well, they're on remand, so they're awaiting their inquiry, and this is a short-term solution.
When you're walking through for the first time, like all the boys just go fresh meat, they sing out fresh meat.
Incarcerating them is having little effect on crime rates. It's costing the community millions and creating more victims. Sooner or later, they'll be released back onto the streets, and often with no support.
Bash all the time for their money and shit. Come down this way and just fucking smash them at the bus stop, lay them right out.
Tonight on Four Corners, kids doing time. A juvenile justice system in crisis. Can it be fixed? It's wake-up time, 6:30 a.m. in one of Australia's biggest juvenile detention centres, Frank Baxter. It's about 90 kilometres north of Sydney.
Come on, fellas, half out of breakfast.
This is the model unit in the centre, and that's why we're allowed to film here. We can't identify any detainees.
You ready to get up?
15 boys live in this block, and they're supervised by 3 officers. It's a regimented existence. A strict timetable is adhered to. This detainee has already been here for 3.5 years. At 15, he was given a 5-year sentence for several vicious armed robberies. He says being locked up has just made him madder.
It's hard to explain, just the anger against the world now. You know what I mean? For being locked up for so long. Other people getting less for murder than what I've got.
So how do you think you're going to deal with that anger?
Just keep it inside like everything else.
But at some point it's got to come out, hasn't it?
That's what I'm afraid of.
And do you think that you'll commit more crimes when you're on the outside?
I'm going to try my best not to, but obviously, you could be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because of my prior record, it's more likely that I'll get in trouble.
Juvenile justice in New South Wales says detention is more about rehabilitation than retribution. But the figures show 60% of these boys will re-offend within a year. It's no surprise that many will graduate to the big house, adult prison.
But you don't think you've been rehabilitated?
Not really.
Tell me why.
Just to me, the system's a bit of a failure. Doesn't really help you as much as you think they would. Trying to enroll you back into the community.
And some people say these institutions, as in juvenile detention centres, are like a crime school.
In a way, yeah, because most boys sit around talking about their crimes, bragging about it, and planning on what they're going to do when they get out.
What type of things make you, reoffend?
Some of the older people that I hang around. I don't know, just drinking, I suppose. When I drink, I get a little bit rowdy and that, and want to go do stuff, don't really care. But yeah, just, I don't know, probably my alcohol and drugs. Yeah.
So I guess one of the biggest challenges to break old habits, old friends, yeah?
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest, of course, yeah. One of the biggest.
Now, what else do you have coming up? Can you see on the board?
Exams.
Yes, you've got a maths exam coming up.
Inside, they get a chance to go to school and learn job skills. But rehabilitation is a difficult road here. Most kids in detention grew up in abusive, broken homes. Trauma is a central part of their lives. A staggering 88% report some form of mental illness, and 90% have drug and alcohol issues. A further 17% have an intellectual disability.
Just need me to help you, no problem. All right, so if you want to give me a pencil and we'll go over it together.
Juvenile detention centres have become holding houses for the most disadvantaged and marginalised.
All right, so this is possibly about which of those different geographical issues that you have to
pollution,
yep.
Air quality.
Good, well done. We'll put up here air quality.
The alcoholic runs. Fucking hell. Here's the sweet guy. What beer?
Phil Rams has just been released from juvenile detention. He's been in and out since he was 14. He's been damaged by the system, and each time he comes out, he's badder. This time, he was released to his brother's place, but Phil's gone straight back to his old crowd.
Where you going, bud? Hey.
So how long have you been out for now?
About a month.
And what's it like on the outside?
It feels all right, living life. Better than the inside, but it's a struggle out here,
Why?
Don't get your feeds and shit that you usually have. You lose all your sense of, how to get feeds and crap. So the only way I pretty much do it is just to fucking hope you can survive,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel like rolling people just as how you get money, bro, survive on the streets.
At 17, crime and punishment is Phil's life. It's all he knows.
How many times have you been inside?
10 or 11.
What detention centres have you been to?
Cubbon, Reby and Emu. I went to Emu the first, it was about my 6th time. I went to Emu when I was first getting made. Last time I went, it was like fully complete. So it spun me out, yeah.
It's not a deterrent for you at all, going inside? Deterrent to committing crime? They say, you go inside, you learn a lesson. Did you learn anything inside?
No, not really. Too used to it. Because I'm 17, I started when I was 14, so, lock up to me is just like, a normal thing. Just become part of my life, so.
Phil says he's been released with no support to integrate him back into society. He says on the outside, there's no one helping him with accommodation, a job or education.
There's glamour for you.
He just roams King's Cross in Sydney with his mates. Phil knows he'll be heading back inside.
Hey, you got the keys, Doug? Open the door. I hate this room, bro. Fucking too many mirrors.
All his friends are on the same track. Broken homes and families, in and out of detention without the intervention needed to break the cycle.
This is bomb
all my rubbing scissors.
The bomb. This is your crib, Doug.
No, it's not. This is our house.
We'll get our own reasons to be the way we are.
What are yours?
Never knew my real parents. They died at the age of when I was a baby, so, you know, I just never related with my foster parents, bro. It just didn't feel right, you know.
Is this what your house looks like?
5 of them are living in this one-bedroom flat.
Now smoky.
They're all products of a system that concentrates on locking them up and not on rehabilitation.
What the hell did you do last night?
I used to stay right here, bro. Before my uncle and me used to stay here. We'd stay over there, over the other side and shit.
Since he was 14, Phil Rams has been homeless. He lived in this park in the centre of Sydney for about a year. He did crime to survive, and he'll do it again.
Come down this way and just fucking smash him at the bus stop, lay him out right out. Didn't give a fuck because I was helping out my uncles and that. People on the street, like, fucking, they'll walk past and I'll ask them for change and they go, you should be at home with your mum, and I go, I ain't got a mum, you know? That's when I get the shits and that's when I punch the out of them and take their money. It's just like, fuck, bro, you know, they don't know what we go through, us street kids.
To keep Phil in juvenile detention will cost the taxpayer about $150,000 a year. But if he continues on his way, then the community will end up paying well over $1 million to fund the policing, the courts and the jail terms needed to service his dysfunctional life.
Do you want to change?
Oh, mate, I'd love to change, but fuck, you know. All I know is, you know, what I've been taught by myself. I've just taught myself just to be, you know, defensive about who I am, what I do, you know. Hang around with boys every day.
Do you think it's possible to change?
Fuck yeah, there's always change.
Do you think you can change that? Change your lifestyle? Or
I reckon I can, I just need to know how to do it. You know, I need to change the way I think.
Critics of juvenile justice say the money spent on locking up Phil and his mates would have been better spent on acting early and diverting them from a life of crime. They believe not enough of the department's $170 million budget is spent on diversionary programs.
Crime, and particularly youth crime, is a factor of economic circumstances, social circumstances, education, health. Those are the factors that really affect youth crime, not policing, increased use of detention or imprisonment. Those are strategies which are not going to make the community safer. You've got to really start. You've got to start early. You've got to start young. Provide really good family support for families who are really struggling. Really good health services, education.
I've got news for them. It costs a lot more to keep a kid in a detention centre than it does for programs, because you will always get charities that have got good programs who only need some subsidy from the government to keep going, instead of this idea of building bigger, better, brighter detention centres.
There will always be a need for detention centres for hardcore offenders. But research says most juveniles can be helped. The Department of Juvenile Justice spends $100 million on detention and about $70 million in the community trying to keep kids out. But even people within the department acknowledge they've got the mix wrong and say they have to put a lot more into the community side to get better results.
Hello, mister. Is it open? Oh, yeah. It is.
It's always open.
What you doing, mister?
One program that's succeeding is run by Maris Youth Care. It's called Connect Ed, and the government is not funding it. In New South Wales, charities are providing much of the diversion and intervention for kids at risk. Sonny Glover has been living in this small unit supported by the program.
It's been 6 months now?
Yeah, I think it's 6 or 7.
Yeah, we wouldn't have seen it looking like this 6 months ago, would we?
No.
You didn't like coming here at all, did you?
I wasn't here most of the time.
Yeah, no, that's right. I don't blame you. It was a hard transition to make, but you've made it. It's really nice. You can't really add much more to that, though, can you?
The 17-year-old was heading for a life of crime. By the time Sonny was 11, he'd had 37 foster placements, and he was getting into trouble with the law.
This place is actually, I think to me, it's extremely important. It's my little place in the world. It's my getaway from all like the problems I have. Like if I have like an argument with my family or my friends, it's not like I have to stay and put up with them. I can just come back to my own house, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you're like your sanctuary almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it is my sanctuary. It's got even like my own little sanctuary garden and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, because the person's not particularly happy. Is that you, or is that just a feeling that you had on the day?
Oh, it's just a feeling I had on the day. And I thought he looked kind of cool.
Oh, even angels cry. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Lisa Graham, or a colleague, comes to Sonny's every day. It's intensive case management, but it's needed. Sonny has never had a parent to keep him on the right track or teach him basic life skills.
So the food in the fridge is all happening?
Yeah, mostly. I've got...
Yes, definitely.
My fridge is packed to the brim.
All right, well, that's pretty good. We're going to have to head because we've got to get up to Connected. I've got to see the other young people. My experience of working with young people is that they continue. They're not one-off. It's not do something at 13, do something at 15. You've got to keep going with it, and you've got to be accepting the fact that they will make mistakes. Young people make mistakes, just like any young person, and that we have to be able to say, well, what can we learn from that mistake, and how can we keep moving forward? So it's a question of getting them to trust new ways as well, and that's where, you know, where Sonny's at. He is trusting new ways. This is yours because you've got heaps of sugar. So just if you do, you might need to make it.
That has
It's more like a latte.
Yeah, that has to be the most whitest coffee I've ever seen.
I like latte.
And I'm not much of a racist.
Sonny is working towards his HSC. He says without the support, he'd be in detention. To get to this point, he's had to work through a lot of anger and trauma. He was removed from his family when he was 5 years old because of neglect and abuse.
I was a bit of a problem child. I didn't really have the behavioural management skills that like most kids that grew up in normal families would have, because I didn't have the family telling me like, this is wrong, don't do this, don't do that. And I guess for me it wasn't like that, so I've kind of just been like my own man since I was like a young kid.
Yeah. What you send off is those assessments.
Yeah.
So the very first one, which is the representation task that you're doing.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. So if we can do that even by the end of next week, so we can get to part 2.
Yep.
And then do ancient history. Because of the learnings he gets from the interventions, he knows how to avoid trouble, and he knows the right relationships to start to build, the people that he should stay away from. They're sort of things that we take for granted. These young people can't always read those signs, and he can because of the learnings that he's got from these interventions.
I've done, most of that.
On one level, rehabilitation is simple. It's about reconnecting, making a place for kids back in communities and in families. It's a lot of work keeping Sonny on the road back, but it's much cheaper than detention, and the outcome is much better for everyone.
We actually do pre and post testing, so these programs are proven programs that work, and yet they're not being used enough. They've been around long enough, so that's where I do question why they're not being used enough.
The Minister for Juvenile Justice in New South Wales, Graham West, says he understands the problems, but he's at odds with some of his senior colleagues. He's announced a review, but it's doubtful whether he has the weight in the current government to push any reforms through.
Well, obviously working in the community is the best way to prevent juvenile crime. We know that the map of juvenile custody is actually a map of poverty in New South Wales. It's not coming from all over New South Wales, coming from particular areas that We think if we can identify those characteristics a lot more, intervene earlier, and with our government agencies and non-government partners, then we can actually prevent a lot of juvenile crime.
The New South Wales government's lock-'em-up mentality has risen to new levels. Tougher policing, targeting juvenile reoffenders, stricter bail conditions, and changes to the Bail Act in December 2007 have resulted in an explosion in the numbers of children in detention on remand. In the last 2 years, there's been an increase of 32%.
The government is pleased to introduce the Bail Amendment Bill 2007.
The New South Wales Attorney-General, John Hatzistegos, is the man responsible for the Bail Act amendments. The provisions make it harder to reapply for bail, and in practice, most lawyers have stopped doing so.
The fact that applications for bail were not being made because some people were concerned that if they didn't make the application when they had all of their material, that could preclude them from making a subsequent application. And the government's responded to that by indicating that we would make changes that would clarify the operation of those provisions. We stand by the view that victims should not be put through the situation of having added distress of bail applications being made on identical facts and circumstances.
Sure.
We stand by the view that magistrate shopping is inappropriate. But at the same time, we don't want to preclude persons who have new facts and circumstances being able to present those to the court and for the court to make a decision.
Lawyers representing children don't agree and say the changes have meant kids stay longer in lockup.
I think it is about winning votes by appearing to be tough on crime. It's very easy to sell a message that if we're tough on bail, we're getting more crims off the streets. We're putting them behind bars where they belong.
New South Wales is struggling to cope with the surge of children coming into detention. This old woman's lockup at Emu Plains in Western Sydney has been converted to deal with overcrowding. We weren't allowed to film inside. Conditions are bad. Detainees are locked in shared rooms with no toilet or shower for 18 hours a day. Most are held on remand. Some will never be convicted of a crime, and more than half of the detainees will not get a custodial sentence. This 17-year-old boy has just been released from Emu Plains. He spent 2 weeks inside on remand for an assault and robbery charge. It was his first time in detention, and he's been left traumatised.
When you're walking through for the first time, like all the boys just go fresh meat, they sing out fresh meat. And
what do they mean by that? Is it just intimidation, or what do they actually mean by that?
It means like they're gonna beat you up when you come in, like fresh meat.
He found the strip searches before and after visits the most disturbing.
They'll get you to spin around and bend down and everything. Yeah, I felt like the guy was getting off by looking at me, and felt like I was humiliated, and that's one of the things I hated the most, the strip searching.
He says almost everyone inside is affected by the harsh conditions.
Some of them hurt themselves sometimes. Some of them bang on the windows all night. Some of them just get angry at their roommates, bash them up. Things like that.
So they're locked in their rooms for 18 hours a day?
Up to 18 hours a day.
And a lot of these children are not, they're innocent because they haven't been to court yet. They're on remand.
Well, they're on remand, so they're awaiting their inquiry, and this is a short-term solution.
The important issue that they don't have access to any education or any other recreational activities.
We're committed
outside.
to actually helping these young people out. emu
But tell me
planes.
how.
We're given. It's just important to understand that juvenile justice does not create the conditions that actually send these people here. They're sent to here by the courts.
Many believe the juvenile justice system in New South Wales has been placed in crisis by overcrowding and a budget cut that will see it lose 100 frontline staff. These statistics obtained by Four Corners reveal why. Their internal Department of Juvenile Justice figures that show alarming increases in assaults and self-harm. In 2007, there were 187 assaults by detainee on detainee. In 2008, this figure had jumped to 242. The first 6 months of this year shows a massive increase to 258. At this rate, assaults will almost triple since 2007. And disturbingly, there's been a dramatic rise of incidents of self-harm. In 2007, it was 68. 2008 saw the figure jump to 160, and it's already climbed to 83 in the first 6 months of this year.
Since the changes in the Bail Act, essentially, you've had physical assaults on staff doubled, sexual assaults have doubled, self-harm rates are in effect doubled. It's not good, is it?
Certainly overcrowding is not good. As with one of the reasons we want to actually try and stop young people coming back into custody. If the best way to reduce overcrowding is actually stop that 68.5% recidivism rate. If we can drive that down, then we actually don't have the overcrowding situation. In the meantime, we'll expand our centres to reduce it as well and look at other options, such as, for those on bail, finding safe options in the community.
But one of the power brokers in the New South Wales government, the Attorney-General, says there is no crisis. The Department of Justice own figures. I mean, you've had a doubling in sexual assaults. You've had a doubling of assaults on detainees on detainees from 2007 in direct correlation to the changes in the Bail Act.
Look, there's vacancies currently in the juvenile justice system. I understand that they've also got a building program and they've also renewed some of their facilities. They're matters that are more appropriate for juvenile justice to respond to. I'm happy to respond.
But you're the Attorney-General. You brought in these amendments.
And, Matthew, you still haven't explained to me where you feel the injustice is in requiring a further bail application to be made based on new facts and circumstances.
Policymakers in New South Wales don't have to go too far to find solutions. Victoria has the lowest incarceration rates in the country, and it spends half of its juvenile justice budget on community programs. In 2008, its daily average was 83 juveniles in detention, compared with 390 in New South Wales. If Chloe Robson lived in New South Wales, she probably wouldn't be staying with her grandfather.
G'day, Pa. And today, Ben.
All right, sweetheart.
It's likely she'd be in and out of detention centres on her way to a full-time life of crime.
And this is your room?
Yeah, this is my room. And this picture here, I drew when I was kind of off my face, scattered.
Chloe's had a cannabis addiction ever since her mother gave her a bong at 10 years of age.
She was a junkie. She liked to hang out with those sorts of people. She never had straight friends because she didn't feel comfortable with them. She couldn't talk about what they talked about. She couldn't do any of that. And it made it hard for me because all I had was junkies as friends. I look at my childhood and I look at how I felt. I fucking hated my childhood. I just hated being with my mum. I hated being here. I thought, fuck, is this all that life's about? Just shit. Great. Another day of shit. I think that, watching her and her crappy life and what she put me through, I don't ever want to put anyone through that ever.
At 11, Chloe was on the streets dealing marijuana to support her own habit.
My mum's like, I'm not going to get it all the time for you. You'll have to get it yourself. I'd go and buy a half an ounce and I'd sell half of that, which is 7 deals at $20 each.
Her dealing brought her in contact with bigger dealers more serious criminals.
I was around at dealers' houses when they got raided, and, you get in trouble that way because, if you're at the house, you're either buying it or you're in with the person who's selling it. And then when I got caught by the police, I just felt that at that point that, I just thought, fuck it, I don't want to be there. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be that person, that 40-year-old bloke or that 40-year-old chick, that's sitting there in the police station getting charged for drugs, They can take everything off you you've ever earned from making money from drugs. They can take your house, they can take everything. As you can see, all the family portrait photos, beautiful, aren't they?
Instead of throwing the book at her, the police and the system got behind Chloe.
Government, the justice system, NGOs, which are very strong here in Victoria, share a philosophy of maintaining a role in keeping kids out of the system. We work very hard on diversion, and in fact diversion is enshrined in legislation.
Chloe was referred to White Lion, a non-government organisation that mentors kids that have been in trouble and helps them get a job.
When I'm doing something creative or even just rearranging something in my house, I feel I feel like I've completed something. I just feel great, man.
So maybe if we explored a range of options, so these more creative options around, do you reckon photography, design, fashion?
Yeah. White Lion is my support system, pretty much. You can go there, and if you have a dream or you have something you want, to finish or you want to do or you want to try, they'll do their utmost to help you get to that point. And then when you get to that point, they're there to support you so you don't fall,
Where do you think you'd be without them?
I'd probably be sitting back at the dealer's house doing the same sort of shit I was, a year ago. I'd probably be sitting in a jail cell, actually. I'd probably be sitting there.
The kids that we work with are very disconnected from community, and if we can reconnect them to the community, that gives them a purpose, gives them a connection that can help them in their daily lives. And that's why mentoring is such a powerful way of engaging young people. And employment, because employment gives you friends, it gives you purpose, it gives you meaning, and it gives you something to do.
White Lion encouraged Chloe, a keen photographer, to take pictures of graffiti and put them in an exhibition.
I like just the feeling of being behind the camera and taking that picture, because you're in control of what you want, and there's not many things I've been in control of in my life.
And now they're trying to find her a job, maybe in photography. White Lion's diversionary program is much cheaper than incarceration, and it's successful. 90% of the kids they work with don't return to lockup.
The cost of a whole of life for a young person in care is about $1 million. So if you can divert them out of that, bring them back into the community, it costs us about $10,000 to give a young person a job and a mentor, which, that potentially can change their life.
We've had occasions here in Victoria where our dual justice system has been challenged, and it's taken some bravery from... we've got an Attorney-General who's got an incredibly strong ethos around youth justice, and we've had a succession of human services ministers of both parties, let me say, that have stuck fast with our juvenile justice system.
Back in New South Wales, they do have diversionary programs that are successful. Justin Murphy is on his way to one, the Youth Drug and Alcohol Court in Parramatta, west of Sydney. He makes this journey once a fortnight so the court can check his progress and make sure he's clean of all drugs and booze.
With the cannabis, the pot, that was just an experimental thing, and then sort of become a massive addiction, and it was like every day needing the pills and that,
Justin doesn't like trains. He prefers travelling by car, He's never had a licence, but that's never stopped him driving. At 15, he first got into trouble when the police caught him driving erratically on Sydney's M4. He got a formal caution for that. But more recently, the teenager took his mother's car again for a spin, but this time he was high on a cocktail of drugs and alcohol.
Get up, get up!
I remember little bits and pieces, just vaguely. I remember hearing lots of sirens and just not really caring, just sitting there, just cruising along. Music was still blaring. Mate was sitting in the passenger seat.
The 17-year-old hit a police officer who tried to wave him down and then led police on a high-speed chase for 40 minutes in Sydney's outer western suburbs.
I could have killed anyone, myself, my mate, another family coming down the road. I'm lucky the cop was still alive too. Like, who knows, he might have a family as well, so I didn't really think about any of that stuff at that point in time. I guess you don't when you're off your face.
The authorities gave Justin a choice: the probability of a long stay in detention or do the state's toughest diversionary program. Justin knows drug court is his last chance. If he doesn't stick with the 6-month program, he's off to an adult prison and probably a life of crime.
How long till you finish the program? You got another 3 months or so,
3 months, yeah. Not long.
Yeah, I got another 3 as well. Yeah.
The court only takes on the hardest cases, so less than 50% will graduate.
No, Ron's fucking... He's on the run, bro. He got locked up again. Yeah, he's either still running or he's on the locked up now. One of the two. Should have just stuck to it. He only had a little bit left.
Yeah, another month,
Yeah, not even. I committed a pretty serious offence. Yeah, I don't think that they would have wanted me to be still cruising around on the streets if I wasn't going to be willing to get a bit of help for myself and that, so yeah.
Justin, oh hi, how are you?
Good.
All right, well I haven't seen you for nearly a month.
Yeah, a month or so now.
Yeah, how have you been?
Yeah, good.
Good.
I've just got a job recently actually. I was meant to start today, but...
The informal court hearing is presided over by Magistrate Hilary Hannam, with support from a legal aid lawyer, a program manager and a police prosecutor.
Okay, now Alicia, I'm assuming that Justin hasn't come up on your radar, which is great. Okay, well, they're all the good things. Now, just on the issue of if you had a urine test today... Clean?
Yeah,
okay.
guaranteed.
You sound pretty categorical about that. That's good. But just on this issue of substance abuse and your counselling and, what you're on.
I was speaking to him then because I told the counsellor I didn't really want to do it, but I'm pretty sure you guys want me to actually do it or else rehab, so I guess I'm going to have to do it.
Now, I get the sense that you come along to court and you're always extremely cheerful and you're upbeat and you've got a nice way about you and you smile and we react well to you, but that there really is a resistance for anyone to go to those deep issues. It is not a soft program, it's not an easy program, they're not being diverted out of the criminal justice system. Normal kids going through the system are not expected to speak in court. They're not expected to be directly accountable for their actions. They're not expected to be given such sort of personal hard pressure from the team members when they make a bad decision. In many ways, it is a lot tougher. Now, you can choose to do the tick the boxes program, go awesome, as you say, 6 months, have your graduation, everything's fine, but your chances of staying out of trouble are less than if you do one that really involves engaging and going to some of the things that you don't want to go to.
Justin's been clean of drugs and alcohol for 3 months, and he's just got a job. But the real value of the program is that it goes deeper and tries to deal with the trauma that drives young people to drug and alcohol addiction. And so far, Justin has been reluctant to go there.
So when we're looking at the whole term, your whole progress on this program, it's about how much you put into it as well as how much we can assist you with. So if you keep saying, oh, I want to do this bit or I don't want to do that, it actually is not to your benefit.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Well, I want to do counselling.
So think about that.
Right. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Did anyone else want to add anything else? No? No. We're very pleased with you. Don't get the wrong idea, but I just think that for you, that you could do the real full-blown, in-depth program, not just the tick the boxes. Okay? All right. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Right,
okay,
thanks,
see you
guys.
then. Radio.
See you, Justin.
Bye, Justin.
I don't think deep in their hearts most people in the community do like the idea of a revolving door. I think despite all this rhetoric that goes on about tough on crime, I think when people in the community actually realise that these kids are not that much different than all other kids, that it is really... It's just damning them to lock them up. But this way it gives them hope, and they don't usually let themselves down or the community down.
As well as providing counselling, other government departments and charities work together to provide housing, education and healthcare.
Diesel.
The majority of kids don't re-offend during the program, and some start rebuilding their lives. But the Youth Drug and Alcohol Court only has funding for 65 places.
So you'd like to obviously see the program expanded?
I'd love to see the program expanded. I think it should be available in more areas.
And it's still, as I believe, a pilot?
It is still a pilot.
After 10 years, right?
After 9 years, yeah.
Why is that?
I have got no idea. I'd like to see it as a permanent part of the landscape. I'd like the community to know a lot more about it, and I'd like it to be available to a lot more young people.
There are a couple of things to remember about these kinds of programs, and that is it's the long-term effect that you are looking for. The volumes of people who have gone through that facility have been relatively small, and the time sequence has not been sufficient in many of those cases to be able to fully evaluate the success or otherwise.
So you don't think
program.
10 years is long enough to evaluate a success?
I think the program is at a point now where a decision will have to be made.
But for Justin Murphy, it's working, although he's not out of trouble yet. He's been given a chance that many others don't get in New South Wales.
Good girl. Hey.